whoever you are, wherever you are. Hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.
Hi, I'm attorney Gavin M. Richard. Check out my latest book, The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in America. For approximately 2 years now, I have gone on a painstaking quest to investigate the rise and fall of an American icon, Bill Cosby. In the mid-1980s, there was not a star that was higher than Cosby. Advertisements with Coca-Cola, Jell-O, Kodak, along with the #1 television show for 5 straight years in a row. On Thursday nights, it was must-see TV on NBC. Cosby resurrected the genre of the traditional family sitcom that was once thought dead by television critics. He did this as a Black American with an all-Black cast and showed mainstream network executives in white America that it was possible to be successful without showing the worst in people. He also demonstrated the power that television had, as it can make younger people dream to be the best that they can be. However, like many celebrity stars, unfortunately, they all come crashing down, sometimes by their own fault, others not so much. In this book, I attempted to highlight certain things. We go in depth into both of his trials in 2017 and 2018, respectively. What if I told you that these criminal trials were politically motivated by an overzealous district attorney? Will you also be shocked to learn the attacks on Mr. Cosby did not start in 2014, but also in the 90s, not long after his attempted quest to purchase a major network? From where did all of these allegations of sexual misconduct come from? Were the accusers telling the truth? In the 2 years of research, with some help from others interested in learning the truth and facts about this case, we discussed both the legal reasons why his prosecution and trial were illegal, unwarranted, and also the possible personal motives as to why this may have occurred. Most importantly, we warn about the dangers of prejudice and why trial by social media, or mainstream media rather, should never be the norm. All this and more in The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in America. Available on Amazon this fall in Kindle and paperback format. I'm attorney Gavin Richard. I grew up here in New Orleans, so I know how important family, friends, and community are to us. And helping others has been a lifelong passion of mine. If you've been injured in an accident, you may be out of work and faced with large medical bills. You'll need someone to fight the insurance companies so that you can get on with your life. Give me a call at 504-799-2288, and I'll be with you all the way. The law offices of Gavin M. Richard, going the distance so that justice may be served.
The defendant will rise and face the jury and hearken to its verdicts.
State of Wisconsin versus Kyle Rittenhouse. As to the first count of the information, Joseph Rosenbaum. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the second count of the information, Richard McGinnis. We, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz, we, the jury, find the defendant Kyle H. Rittenhouse not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read? Would you wish the jury polled? Okay. Okay, folks, your job is done, and we started just about 3 weeks ago, and I told you it could last 2 weeks and 2 days. This is 2 weeks. This is 3 weeks. You were a wonderful jury to work with. You were punctual. You were attentive. And the forgotten sixth over here, who had a very difficult job of keeping from discussing the case during the time that they were sequestered as well. Better jury to work with. And it has truly been my pleasure. I think, without commenting on your verdict, the verdicts themselves, just in terms of your the attentiveness and the cooperation that you gave to us, justifies the confidence that the founders of our country placed in you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Gabe Gutierrez, I think you just spoke to Jacob Blake's uncle. I know you did a few minutes. What did you learn from him? What did he tell you?
Hey, Chuck. Hey there, Chuck. So yes, Justin Blake, the uncle of Jacob Blake, is right over there. We just spoke with him. It's a bit of a crowded situation over here. I want to see if I can catch up with him right here. But what he had told me, he was very disappointed with this verdict. He called Kyle Rittenhouse a provocateur and said that he was furious at this verdict. He's been speaking to reporters here. Why don't you walk with me and see if I can get a microphone in here and speak with him pretty quickly. It's a little tight.
We're not going to quit. We're not going to stop. We're going to use peace.
Tell you what, Chuck, I'm going to send this back to you really quickly.
Make sure that the cause of civil rights and social justice doesn't die here in the city of Kenosha.
Jacob Blake's family reports Jacob Blake was a man who was shot and terrorized, but touched off the unrest.
Which was built upon racism and slavery, and it still goes on here clearly in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Thank you so much.
Or if we can see him over here. See if I can throw him a question live on MSNBC. No, 1 second.
Yes, not at all. I mean, if they didn't convict the police officer with his dirty ass that shot my nephew in the back 7 times, we had hope because this was a jury of 12. But when you have the guy who's presiding over the whole thing, puts his hands on the scale and allows this young man literally to walk out, he gave him a pass. He didn't allow evidence in. If somebody said they were going to kill somebody with an AR-15 30, 40 days ago, and they actually do it 40 days later, that's good evidence. If somebody's in before that shows the Proud Boy sign, then goes into a bar at 17 and throws it up again, you know his ideology. They talk about harming African Americans, they talk about harming minorities, and he acted it out. Now you tell us why he got a free ride. His bail money was raised by the Proud Boys, the Ku Klux Klan, the Nazis, the skinheads. Are they plugged up in this courtroom? Do we know the history of this judge? I heard he's been racist as hell to these people in Kenosha for many years. Do we know his background?
Mr. Blake.
Listen, we got thick skin. We've been my great-grandfather, grandfather. We've been fighting this for years, and my father. And we're going to keep fighting till we win. Big ups to the red, black, and green unity now.
Mr. Blake, we're live on MSNBC. What did you make of Mr. Rittenhouse's argument of self-defense?
There was no self-defense. Self-defense is when you're protecting your home, you're protecting your family. He, in a very bastardly and dastardly way, used the law that worked for him. There was absolutely no self-defense.
So, Chuck, there you have it. Justin Blake, Jacob Blake's uncle, speaking with reporters back there. He is obviously very disappointed. He's very furious at what he sees as a miscarriage of justice. But just, on the other side of these steps, we spoke with supporters of Kyle Rittenhouse who see this as a victory of the Second Amendment. Emotions running high here, Chuck, but you can say it's been very peaceful here, and the hope is by local authorities again that Kenosha stays peaceful as we head into tonight. Chuck.
All right, everyone. Let me just say this in comment. First off, good evening, good afternoon, rather. You all see the breaking news that Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted on all 5 counts of all 5 charges, including 2 for intentional murder, first-degree murder, as well as the attempted murder of the grassroots guy, also a couple other ancillary charges. Let me make this comment. You heard Jacob Blake saying, Uncle speaking right there about how it wasn't self-defense. Some of us have, and being that I'm a lawyer and I've explained this, don't have an understanding of the law and understanding how it's applied. You can do something so stupidly and something immorally, but it may not be illegal. And that is the question. Was his actions legal in the case? Was it whether it was immoral or not? Now, we know that the judge did not allow certain evidence into the case. He didn't allow his previous actions of beating up on a girl into the case. He did not allow that shirt that he was wearing after he got released on bail, out of bail, fuck it, I'm free. His comments about shooting looters, I believe that was not heard in front of the jury, that footage. Tariq Nasheed has pointed out how he was randomly pointing his gun at people. Prior to that, the judge wasn't even allowing that. However, what they looked at, so yeah, he did have a favor. The judge certainly, in this case, to my opinion, was biased in favor of the defense. And, there have been stuff said about him, things he said in the case, but I am not surprised by this verdict. So when we talk about self-defense here, let me just say this. Self-defense, Jacob Blake uncle was talking about how it's when you're defending your home or your property. Let me stop right there. That is not necessarily the case. You do not have to be at your home or on your property to defend yourself. It can be anywhere. Okay, that's one thing. And I think we all know that. Now, Wisconsin has, and I'm going by the law, its definition of self-defense, even from what CNN reported, is there is some confusion to it. Now, let me go ahead and show you this is the Wisconsin self-defense law 939.48. Let me stop sharing this for a second, okay? So we go here. Guys, put him in timeout or block him, please. So this is the section on self-defense. So now look how long this is, okay? Now, this is what you had. Now, I think it was stupid of this kid, number one, to be going out there in the first place. Being 17, you know you're not supposed to have a firearm. Granted, the charge was dismissed. The judge dismissed that. He dismissed even the curfew charge that the prosecutors had thrown on Rittenhouse because the Wisconsin governor had an order of curfew. No one was to be out on the streets. And so they charged him with that. The judge threw that out because he didn't think they could prove that, which I still can't believe. The gun charge got dropped because under the Wisconsin law, the requirements of there was an exception, and the requirements that while someone under 18 cannot be in possession of a firearm, that there's an exception to it if the barrel of the gun was short, meaning, for instance, if you're talking about a sawed-off shotgun, things of that nature, that's what qualify. Well, this rifle in and of itself did not meet the requirements that was set fit. It was a long barrel rifle, and the prosecutors conceded that. And as a result of conceding that, the judge threw out the charge. Now, you read here, this is the definition of self-defense. Now, I'm going to compare that I'm going to compare and contrast that with the justifiable homicide that I know here in Louisiana. Now, it says a person is privileged to threaten or intentionally use force against another for the purpose of preventing or terminating what the person reasonably believes to be an unlawful interference with his or her person by such other person. The act may intentionally use only such force or threat thereof as the actor reasonably believes is necessary to prevent or terminate the interference. The actor may not intentionally use force which is intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm unless the actor reasonably believes. Man, what's all these people calling me? They want to know what's going on. The actor reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or herself. So now when you read here, if an actor, this is just definition of a dwelling and place of business. If an actor intentionally used force that was intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm, the court may not consider whether the actor had an opportunity to flee or retreat before he used or should use or she used force, and shall presume the actor reasonably believed that the force was necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or herself if the actor makes such a claim under sub 1, and either of the following applies. The person against whom the force was used in the process of unlawfully and forcibly entering the actor's dwelling, vehicle, or place of business. The person against whom the force was used in the actor's dwelling, motor vehicle, or person or place or business. It was present in the dwelling, motor vehicle, or place of business, and the actor knew or reasonably believed that the person had unlawfully and forcibly entered the dwelling, motor vehicle, or place of business. Or so these are basically under burglary statutes. Provocation affects the privilege of self-defense as follows. A person who engages in unlawful conduct of a type likely to provoke others to attack him or her, and thereby does provoke an attack, is not entitled to the claim of privilege against such attack, except when the attack which ensues is a type of causing the person engaging in unlawful conduct to reasonably believe that he or she is in imminent danger of great bodily harm. So what this self-defense statute, as you read it, states basically is that if you reasonably believe, the actor reasonably believes that the use of force is necessary to prevent death or, and here's the or, great bodily harm. Now, what I saw in this case, and let me just say this, the prosecutor dropped the ball, I think, on this one as well, because he did not have a strong case. The grassroots guy who testified about him pointing his gun, and I said this before, when he admitted to pointing his gun at Rittenhouse on the stand before Rittenhouse fired, I said, oh, that's self-defense. That is self-defense. Now, I think Rittenhouse, I'll put it to you like this, is a Boy Scout who being hailed as a hero, although I don't consider him a hero, but he's being hailed by the right as a hero. And we have the left who say he's the worst thing since sliced bread and he's bad. We have leftist Marxists that are running these protests. And, I was listening to Dr. Boyce Watkins earlier, and he said something interesting. When we look at these protests for the Black Lives Matter movement, Black Lives Matter, all of these people that show up who are white, they show up in claiming the protest on our behalf. Well, when we talk about reparations, we talk about cutting the check, they're not out there. They're not out there in droves fighting for that. Now, make no mistake, this is not me following or saying Kyle Rittenhouse is a good guy. No, I think he was out there looking for a buck, looking for a black person, and he didn't get that. And he came upon these white boys just so apparently, and unfortunately for them, yes, they have criminal records, by the way. One of them, I believe, they actually went through the criminal history of these guys. I believe one person also had, I think it was the Rosenbaum guy who had a mental disorder, a bipolar, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever it was, he had something in his bag and he threw it at the guy. And, you throw a plastic bag at someone, but you have a firearm. Is that threatening? Well, the guy did say, I'm going to kill you. So all of that adds up. So the question is, when someone is asserting a self-defense claim in Wisconsin, it's my understanding that the prosecutor has the burden of proof of proving that is not the case, that there was no valid self-defense claim beyond a reasonable doubt. As I've talked about this before in criminal law, in order for someone to convict another person, in order for the state to convict someone of a crime, they have to be able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. As I stated again for watching me, the underage charge was dismissed by the judge because the judge dismissed it. The judge said it didn't fit the requirements. That law required, in order for that charge to stick, from what the judge looked at, did it fit the measurements required in that bill? He said the way it was written was ambiguous, meaning it was confusing. So just as a result of that, he threw it out when the prosecutors conceded that it was not a short barrel rifle, it was long. So because of that, that's what was the exception for Rittenhouse, and he beat that charge. Otherwise, that would have been the most likely charge that he would have stuck, that he probably would have been convicted on. But they looked at it and it didn't fit. So I still, think that these guys went looking for trouble, and yes, this does give the presumption for a lot of people that now that he's free, these white vigilantes can go free and do anything. Well, let me just say this, and I've said before, you as black people have to avoid trying to be a victim. It's important to step your Second Amendment game up. Just as much as we want to talk about our money game, we got to step our Second Amendment game up. Buy enough, as Judge says, buy more bang than bling. You got to do it. And I'm looking at this. I'm just looking at this. So then we have the judge. So you got a lot that was just going on here. I'm seeing too that the judge was. Yeah, a lot of people were complaining about the judge and what happened in this case and how he handled it. They were saying even during jury deliberations. Now, what was interesting about this judge during deliberations, somebody brought this up and said that he actually was singing a song for the defense. I don't get caught up in all of that because I think the media tries to look for stuff, but he certainly, I can tell you this much as someone who practices law, someone that's been in court and I've been in courts that's home to the Ku Klux Klan. I can tell you emphatically that how this judge treated Kyle Rittenhouse or treated this case, if Kyle Rittenhouse were a black man, I do not think he would have been as lenient on the defense or as favorable to the defense as he was with Rittenhouse. But I am not surprised that this happened. So this happened. Let's do fair use.
And autumn leaves, and autumn leaves start to fall. Da, 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 da. Huh? They can stay because they're still making a recording, but or live. I don't know. But anyway, they're okay.
We're talking about him singing Autumn Leaves and so forth in the presence of the defense. I don't get caught up in that. I'm sure the prosecutors were there. I think people are just listening.
No te preocupes, ma, ya vamos para allá.
¿Con quién vienes? Cuéntame.
¿Cómo la describo? Es la que siempre me lleva a los mejores lugares.
Ay, ya la quiero conocer.
¿Es la más hermosa?
Presentando la totalmente nueva Nissan.
All right, sorry about that. So now I predicted all of this. I did not think that these guys were going to walk. I mean, that this guy was going to get convicted based off what was all that was going on, what the judge was saying. I do believe when you contrast that now with the Ahmaud Arbery situation and how that judge has acted, Judge Timothy Walmsley versus Judge Bruce Schroeder in this case. This judge in Arbery's case has been quite professional in handling a situation. That's how a judge is supposed to act. He does not admonish just one side. He hears both sides of the argument. He listens to it. He also manages his courtroom properly. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that all of this is happening now that this case is over with. The prosecutors cannot bring it back. What was interesting was that there were actually 2 mistrials. Well, let me go back to what I was saying. I slipped right there. I don't think that it was a coincidence that he's getting off, and now you have the Ahmaud Arbery situation. It's not the Ahmaud Arbery trial, but the McMichael Bryan trial that's going on. I think that those guys will be convicted. There's a strong likelihood of it. Again, the defense is making motions for a mistrial right now as we speak. The judge has given charges. He dismissed the jury for Friday. And what they have been arguing is charges about, again, trying to declare a mistrial, trying to get the case dismissed. The judge has been very professional, again, in this matter. So I'm actually going to go just play a little bit of that.
Well, if the court's refusing to consider them because they're untimely, I won't discuss it any further. If the court's going to entertain the untimely jury charges, then I'll continue.
Now they're doing jury charges.
Mr. Goff, what issue do these charges raise beyond what is contained in the charge that we have spent a good amount of time today reviewing, with you adding in your position as we went through the charge already? So what new exists in these charges that is not currently contained in the charge that I just went over with the parties?
Maybe, Your Honor, I misunderstood, and if so, my apologies. But it was unclear, at least when we started the process, whether we were bringing up our own charges during that process or waiting to, we went through the court's draft and the state's response to it. So if I've waived these, either by being untimely or not raising them earlier today, then
Y'all excuse me 1 second. I don't know who the hell keeps calling me.
I'll just sit down. But if the court will hear me out, I don't intend to take a lot of time on it. But I do specifically am asking the court to give use of force supplemental charge number 2, number 3, and number 4. And I'm not going to belabor the issue. And if the court's going to prevent me from doing that based on their being filed untimely or being waived today.
No, let me be very clear for the record. No, I think I've shown, there's a bunch of notes and I've reviewed these. They were untimely. Despite that, the court has reviewed them. Taken them in consideration in the draft charge that was provided to the parties. And having considered them, drafted the proposed charge, which we have just reviewed with the parties. And what I'm simply trying to understand is whether there is something specific in your proposed charges on use of force that has not been addressed at this point that you believe needs to be addressed.
Your Honor, I don't believe the principles reflected in those 4 charges are covered by the charges. And if the court had already expressly or implicitly denied those requests, and I did gather that.
I'm going to pause it right there. But earlier today, you should have seen the prosecutor and Kevin Goff. They were going at it because they were trying to get this case dismissed. And I believe even talking about the fact that they wanted a mistrial and also ineffective assistance of counsel, which was not going to happen. This judge has been stern on his points. He has actually made it clear that this trial is continuing. Right now, they're going over the charges on what they will give the jury on Monday when they do closing arguments, which I think will happen. And probably the jury will have the case that Monday evening or that Tuesday morning and deliberate on this matter. But the defense rested.
That came up through the presentation of the now famous video during the testimony of Officer Dial.
That's Kevin Goff talking.
Well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say anything clear, but there's certainly a basis in the evidence for the suggestion that, contrary to the state presented in the opening, in fact, when the defendant said that he was going to go on or keep on, that he was in fact traveling in the opposite direction from Mr. Arbery, the opposite direction of the McMichaels, for a considerable distance, had put his camera down and then turned around, put the camera up, and drove back.
Let me just skip that for a minute and go here. We know, of course, what's going to happen next. Kyle Rittenhouse will be a news anchor on Fox News. Yo, who's this? Yo, you've been calling me multiple times. I think you got the wrong number.
Oh, sorry.
All right, no problem. Hit those likes up. Sorry about that, guys. I kept getting calls. Some kid dialed me. But yeah, Fox News already. I think they have a live going on about it. But it's no surprise they're going to offer Kyle Rittenhouse the first. They're going to offer him a news anchor position to right shortly after, and he's going to have a book deal. Uh,
We're going to go back to Alexis McAdams.
Let's just listen to the coverage
She's
here.
got
Now,
one
you
of the
listen to the difference
spokespersons
here
for the
between
family.
MSNBC versus
Alexis?
Fox. You see how they react.
That's right. Yeah, we've been
We know
talking
how
with
they
people out here,
cater.
including Dave Hancock, who's been on the ground, and you've been in the courtroom. So you are very close with Kyle. Tell me how you're feeling right now and how Kyle and his family are feeling after hearing that he's not guilty on all 5 counts.
Well, somewhat surreal. We knew that this was the right decision. I think it really hasn't hit everybody quite yet. Look, it's clear as day that he defended himself, and this verdict from this jury, they came back, and I believe they were cerebral and they thought about every single piece of the jury instructions. And so justice was done for Kyle. He gets to live a life as a free young man. And yeah, I think it's all still settling in.
I'm sure. You've been in that courtroom. You've been back and forth talking with Kyle, and you're actually with him as he prepared to take the stand and testify. I know, importantly, you didn't even tell his mom because you thought maybe she'd be pretty nervous and didn't want her to know too much about it until he walked up on the stand. How did you think that and him testifying played into him being not guilty?
The whole time, he was always going to take the stand. He always wanted to take the stand because he wanted to tell everybody, the world, his story, right? Nobody knew Kyle. Nobody knows what was in his heart and what was in his head, but everybody wanted to pretend like they knew. So that was his opportunity to tell everybody what was in his head and what was in his heart. And so I'm just speechless and proud of the strength and the resilience of that young man. He's weathered a hell of a storm over the past year, a hell of a storm. And I would suggest that he's not just going, this situation is not just going to go away, to the sense where Kyle is very pragmatic when he looks back on the past year, right? He was dealt a lot of really crappy cards, and he stayed strong. His family stayed strong, and there were ups and downs. And finally, after all this time, he's a free man.
26 hours of deliberations there. I know you were getting so many calls from everybody asking, what do you feel? How do you feel about this? Why is it taking so long? Did you ever get nervous that it was taking so long? Did Kyle get nervous that those deliberations were going on maybe longer than expected for some?
I think some people got nervous. I didn't. Look, this case has veins that go to every major political issue and contemporary political issue that we're facing as a nation right now. And it was snatched up and rebranded and retitled. And I'd say quite a few people just didn't want to admit the facts and the truth. So I just figured that the jury was taking their time and they were being
I'm taking my time, man.
careful about every single instruction, because they
knew what they were going to do before they went in there, man. I put it to you like this: jurors basically have, just from what I study, of course, there are some jurors who ask questions, but I think as a when they come into the courtroom, especially when they call the first witness, and then when they hear the defense's side, they've pretty much made their mind up, even if they say they're impartial. But yes, most jurors, I think, are listening to that. They knew it was going to be a not guilty the minute that judge was not allowed. I knew it was going to be a not guilty. And I'm sure they had heard about the Rittenhouse case before all of this started. Of course, they're not supposed to consider all that. They're supposed to consider the evidence. But you listen to this was a high profile case that happened. And I think that they actually just listened to what the evidence, yeah, they listened to what the evidence was. But I certainly think they knew what they were going to do from the beginning. Uh, they did ask several questions of the judge to ask about the video footage, and they actually asked for a mistrial during this proceeding as well. Uh, what was interesting about it was that the judge did not grant, he didn't grant the mistrial. So what I was thinking, he was considering all under advisement until if the jury came back with a guilty verdict. And if they had done so, I'm pretty sure he would have granted a mistrial.
This is a major and huge and consequential case that they had to be right. They had to be right about, and they were.
And you were in the courtroom. Did you receive a heads up? How did you know that they were getting closer to coming with a decision? Because we saw Kyle's mom enter short time before that verdict was read.
I was a couple blocks away, so I got a phone call that something's coming down here soon, so get on over here quickly. So I came right over, and as soon as I got here, we all ran down to the courtroom, and I'm beyond proud of Kyle for the way that he's handled this past year, and I'm so very relieved that he gets to live his life as an innocent man of what was brought against him here at this courthouse.
As you mentioned, that his life will never go back to being what it was before he was on trial here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. What are his next steps here? He's in the area, or has he left? And how do you think he'll proceed with the rest of his day and the rest of his life here?
That's up to Kyle. Kyle makes his own decisions. He's an 18-year-old young man. He's been making his decisions this whole time. He's an independent and smart young man. He's going to be in college. He's going to be in college. He wants to go into the medical field. He's taking his prerequisites at Arizona State University right now. I mean, they attacked him because he said he went to Arizona State. The happiest that I've ever seen Kyle in the past year and month, or like 3 months, was the day that he received his Arizona State University student ID. That was the happiest I've ever seen him outside of when he received Milo, his dog, back in January. And so he wants to go to college, and we're not going anywhere. We're going to make sure and do everything we can to make sure that he is able to live as normal of a life as possible moving forward. And I think you're going to see some great things coming out of Kyle in the next few years.
Safety was a top priority for you throughout this entire trial. I know you guys had a security team rather, with Kyle Rittenhouse at all times. That will continue, I'm sure.
We're going to do what needs to be done to keep Kyle safe, but he has the most professional and the most fantastic security team, and they've gotten really close to Kyle, and they're committed to making sure that Kyle can live as normal as a life, at least in the short term, as possible. So I would expect that yes, I don't want to comment on the security aspect, but he's definitely going to be taken care of.
So leaving the courthouse and leaving Kenosha because of possible security concerns. I know businesses in the area told us, and you've been hearing that as well, that they were bracing for possible unrest depending on what the verdict was here. So was that something you were concerned about? Is that why he needed to leave the area quickly?
Of course. He left with his family right afterwards.
All right, enough of this shit. Yeah, but this doesn't surprise me that they did that. He came out there and said that. Now, like I said before, they actually put up the record or criminal records that they talked about of the man who was shot Two of them, of course, killed by Kyle Rittenhouse in self-defense. Joseph Rosenbaum, someone told me this, was sentenced at the age of 19 for sexually abusing 5 boys between the age of 9 and 11. And Judge Schroeder denied the defense's bid to have his felony conviction presented at trial, as they believe it supported their argument that he would be more inclined to take Rittenhouse's AR-15. Now, Anthony Huber, who was also killed, he had 2 domestic violence convictions. You can bring in and try and bring that in like they tried to, what they did with Will Smith back in, not the Will Smith, but Will Smith and the Cardell Hayes trial here in New Orleans, because Will Smith had some domestic violence charges on him. And even though he was a victim, that it can go towards the defense's argument that the victim had a history of violence. He's prone to violence. He's a violent person. Now, your Gage Grosskreutz, he was the one who survived the shooting, and he's the one that admitted to pointing the gun at Rittenhouse. He had a concealed carry permit, though it was expired at the time of the shooting, according to NPR. He's been charged with minor offenses, including disobeying police and noise violations, but public records indicate that he was suspected of committing felony burglary in 2012, but those charges were dropped. Now, notice, though, get this loser out of here. All right. Now, notice in that report, I never saw or even heard this about their criminal record in regards to the victim's history. Now, I bring that up. Don't you notice the difference in how they do it for us? When it's a black person that's been shot and killed, they will mention everything about that person that they did. Even Tamir Rice, that kid couldn't catch a break. They mentioned his father's history of being arrested by police and having a divorce. So what? What that had to do with you shooting him? So this doesn't surprise me that he was acquitted. Like I said, he might be very well just like he might have another incident. I saw Sean was commenting on it. He said it might be another, called him Baby George Zimmerman, when Zimmerman was still having charges and stuff thrown at him, getting into fights. Like I said before, family, I didn't think the man was going to get convicted. And I do think, this is my opinion as a lawyer, and I call things fair and how I see it. I believe that based off the fact of the evidence and even the lack thereof, I thought that, yes, this was justice. Not that I'm defending Kyle Rittenhouse as a person, but I do think, yeah, based off of it, there was enough reasonable doubt to grant an acquittal. Based off what the judge was doing, what was transpiring in that court, and yeah, I thought it was a circus. But I just knew he wasn't going to get convicted. So we've had to deal with I guess what people call a bad verdict before. People think that he shouldn't have gotten off. He got off light, easy, and all of this. He had help from the judge. That all may be the case. But what I saw too, this was also white on white crime. And I just hope, brothers and sisters, if you're mad about it, please do not go out there rioting, protesting, because you know what they're going to do. They're going to use that on us to get you thrown in jail and create some new laws. So whenever something big happens, major happens, the first thing they do, they're going to change the law right after that, after an incident. So yes, that's right, Black Voltron. It's time to step your Second Amendment right game up if you have not already done so. Yes, and we need to pay attention to, thank you, some chick named Star. We need to pay attention to the Arbery case and what's going on in that. But you see how that judge, and I've showed you, has been more professional in his tone and his manner and how he addresses the parties. That's the big thing. Well, that didn't happen. That actually didn't happen. He didn't cross state lines with the weapon. From what was testified, his girlfriend's brother bought the weapon. And they said that he was already in Kenosha at that time and went there. I still think, okay, let me say this. Even if he was still there, even though he was there, his home is in Antioch, Illinois, right? He's in Kenosha. Even if he was there, why would you still volunteer to go? You're saying you work there. You're still going to volunteer during a riot under the age of 17 to prevent property from being destroyed that, if I'm not mistaken, the owners didn't even ask them to do. There are some issues with this judge. It's just like, I don't know if it was worse than Tammy Kemp out there in Dallas. That was bad. That was awful. Getting off the bench, hugging the defendant, and giving her a Bible. No, just the appearance of impropriety was just bad. Yes, you notice I didn't come in and play the music. I usually do it when we do a live stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So because I'm on here on Friday, that was only for this special announcement. Of course, Kyle Rittenhouse again acquitted on all 5 charges. So if you guys would do so, yes, please go to my knowledgecreoblends.com. Also, check out Video Soul, which is available on the Spotify, Apple, and iTunes. You can stream that. And also, got to get on up. You can stream, download, and check it out on Apple. Yeah, that was awful. No, they did not. And they have insurance, Star. They have insurance. The other thing, too, guys, if you could, you see the Cash App at the bottom. Hit the Cash App, Gavin Richard Esquire, or Google Pay at gavin.grich1@gmail.com. At PayPal, same email, gavin.grich1@gmail.com, and the Zelle right there. Yeah, the same thing with that. I mean, I think the reason why we fear and people, I don't think black people are defending the white boys that were out there necessarily that got killed. They are more upset, and from what I understand, and this is what I to interpret to be, that you have vigilantes that are getting away with murder. That's the impression that they have from what they're seeing, like all this vigilanteism that we've seen, especially in the wake of the shooting of Trayvon Martin, of the shooting of Tamir Rice, and others. Yes, indeed. Well, and I understand all of that, but I knew how the law is interpreted. And when we talk about self-defense, once again, and let me pull up the Wisconsin law for everybody. Let me pull it up again, and I'm going to put it in the chat so you all can read. Again, remember, it's what you reasonably believe. The jury believed, obviously, I knew from when the prosecutor's witness testified and said he pulled the gun on Rittenhouse first, that did this prosecution in. And let me say this, if anything, now that you have that, I don't know what the population is in that area, but that judge needs to be thrown out immediately. Y'all need to throw him out. So vote him out, rather. Vote his ass out. Those guys are appointed. He's run unopposed, my understanding. So if you want change, just like one of the things that we should be upset about, and Judge Joe Brown pointed this out, we should be upset that Zimmerman got off, that we didn't have any blacks on the jury. So the most important thing, and they didn't have the one black person on this jury as well, but it is important to be registered to vote, only so that you can serve on those juries and vote in local elections, because that does matter and you're more impacted by that. But I'm gonna wrap this up. I've given this too much time, guys, but let me know what you think. Hit a like, share, and subscribe button if you like this video, if you like the stream. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to tune in Sunday. We will be back as well. I don't know if we'll have a show Thursday because that is Thanksgiving, but I'll try and work something out with Sean. Maybe we'll have a special show on Tuesday to make up for everything. All right? So y'all have a good one, guys. I got people in the house already. Y'all be safe and be blessed. I'll holla. Peace. All right. Payson T, DeAndre, shout out to all of you. Black Voltron, some chick named Star, Superstar Bella, Vulcan. It's good to see y'all, okay? Love y'all. Be blessed. Thank you. Computer robots, my man.